part of that's knowing where they are, where they need to go next, where can we get out of lines, which farm do we need to dump at. So it all fits together. Everything has to go right. And these are just a few more tools to help things go right. I know there are a lot of features on this, and I don't use all of them for sure. What I use a lot is just the map to see where the equipment is and what it's up to, especially trucks. We have a system from Razor Technology that is integrated with John Deere Ops. So we have the GPS units in the trucks that show me where the trucks are, which is a great feature during harvest particularly. We also can use the mapping function to monitor how anything's going in the field, whether it's harvest or tillage or whatever. I find that very useful as far as just kind of keeping an eye on things. How are the combines running? How is tillage going? Especially when I'm not personally involved in that operation. It gives me a certain amount of peace of mind to know that things are still moving along, even when I'm not there. So that's a nice feature. This happens to be side dress application, so we can see how the rates went on. So that's all good. Another feature we use is the flag feature, which we generate the flags in the cabs generally, but we use the linear feature to mark tile lines. So in this case, we can see where we've installed some tile to try to cover some wet spots. And I think almost without exception, everyone thinks to always remember where the tile is, but turns out you don't. So when it's time to go fix one or tie in some new tile, it's going to be really nice to know where that tile is. So that's another feature we use.
Can you show some of the yield monitor stuff that you've reconciled in post? Is that on here also?
Yep. Okay. So what I do after we're finished harvesting, I get all the truck scale tickets and post calibrate. I typically use my desktop and post calibrate the yield map, and then that becomes the basis for future decision making. And actually, more accurately, a composite yield map, maybe of the last 3 corn crops, is the basis for future decision making. I think about when I came back to the farm in late 01, really started helping in 02. But at that time, I was basically an employee. I was a grain cart driver. I didn't know anything about agronomy. I didn't know anything, period. But at that time, we started toying with AutoSteer and started toying with yield maps, but we didn't know what we were going to do with them. So actually, I credit my dad on kind of having the foresight to know that whether or not we even know what we're going to do with them, it's time to start collecting the data. And lo and behold, turns out we are using it down the line. So yeah, we've got 20, 25 years of yield data. Now, of course, we're not using all that currently anymore, but we've been using kind of this process for at least 7 or 8 years, which means we're using yield data that goes back 12 or 15 years, or we were at that time. So yeah, things have changed a lot. Just the ability to make sound agronomic decisions. I mean, you never know for sure. The weather is always a trump card, but we try to do the best we can. We try to set the table as well as we can. So that's, one, I guess, big category of decision making. And then the other category is just efficiency, trying to get as much done with as little machinery and as few people as possible. And, this year was maybe one example of a good run we had. I mean, for sure, a record setting. We had one week where, I don't know, this is not interesting to some people or not exciting to some people, but we for sure did more in a week than my dad would do an entire year just 20 years ago. So, and that's some, of course, bigger equipment, but it's also the equipment running properly, having trucks when you need them. Part of that's knowing where they are, where they need to go next, where can we get out of lines, which farm do we need to dump at. So it all fits together. Everything has to go right. And these are just a few more tools to help things go right.